Citizens and slaves. Roman society was divided into three main groups of people: Roman citizens, non-citizens or provincials, people who came from outside Rome, and slaves. Citizens themselves were divided into different ranks. Senators were elected by the people and were usually wealthy nobles. The next rank of citizens were the equestrians, who served in the army and helped to run the government. Roman slaves generally led hard lives, although some were well treated and even powerful. Brooch. The brooch or fibula was used for fastening cloaks at the shoulder. Sprung safety pin was behind decorative front of brooch. SPQR. These letters found on inscriptions stand for Senatus Populus Romanus, the Senate and people of Rome. Rods were tied together with a strap. Axe. Rings. Rings were worn by men and women. Gold rings were a badge of rank for equestrians, and rings with carved stones were used to seal documents. Gold signet ring. Silver ring showing Hercules left and Mars below. Ring made of gold coin. Symbol of power. Important officials were escorted by lictors, men who carried the fasces, an axe and a bundle of rods. This symbolized their authority to punish people. Men's gear. Roman men wore a knee-length sleeveless tunic with various types of cloak. On formal occasions, citizens wore the heavy white toga. Peasant, nobleman, sacrificial assistant, priest, citizen in toga, senator. Headed paper. The back of this wooden writing tablet shows the stamp of the Procurator of Britain, the official who collected taxes and paid the army in Britain. The procurator was of a lower rank than the governor, a senator who commanded the army and administered justice. On the other side, there was a layer of wax to write on, page 40. Escape from the arena. Most Roman gladiators were slaves, but success in the arena could win them their freedom. The bone ticket above grants freedom to a gladiator called moderatus. The Forum. Each Roman town had a forum, a market square with public buildings around it. The Forum in Rome, above, was the heart of the capital. On the right is the Curia, or Senate House. Nearby were the Imperial Palace and the Colosseum. Hair and beards. Roman men were keen followers of fashion. The man shown in this bronze bust sports the thick hair and clipped beard fashionable around 130 CE. Over time, longer beards became more popular. Clipped beard fashionable around 130 CE. Women in Rome. Roman women were expected to be dignified wives and good mothers. Girls were only educated up to primary standard, if at all. Wealthy women could enjoy a good deal of independence, especially if they were widows. At the other end of the scale, large numbers of women were slaves, ranging from ladies' maids to farm workers. Bust. This small silver bust may be a portrait of a great Roman lady. Spinning and weaving. Spinning and weaving yarn and making clothes were traditionally women's tasks which wealthy ladies avoided. The Emperor Augustus made his daughter Julia do it as an example to others. Julia hated it. Bone needle. Silver distaff used to hold wool or linen fibers. Bronze needle for fine work. Modern-looking bronze thimble. Cosmetics. Many Roman women used makeup. A pale complexion was achieved with powdered chalk or white lead. Eyes were made up with ash-based mixtures, while red ochre was used for cheeks and lips. Silver spatula for mixing cosmetics. Onyx scent bottle. Wall painting showing a girl pouring perfume into a phial. This ivory comb from a grave is inscribed Modestina Farewell. Women's dress. Roman women wore an inner and an outer tunic made of wool or linen, and sometimes a cloak. Mummy mask. This colored wax picture from a Roman period tomb in Egypt gives a clear idea of a wealthy woman's appearance. Gold earrings shaped like dolphins. Roman women often used hairpieces. Duck earrings from Syria. Earrings made from precious stones. Braided gold wire necklace. Gold crescent-shaped pendant. Bronze ring with the name Sabina. Gold ring with a seal stone of a bird. A necklace of gold and red garnet beads. Jewelry. Rings, bracelets, and necklaces were widely worn, page 43. Most jewelry was made from cheap bronze or glass. Many women had their ears pierced for earrings. Women in the arena. The Romans even trained some women slaves as gladiators, page 30. Occupations. There were few careers for women outside the home. Rich women could become priestesses, page 52. A few ran their own businesses. There were professional midwives, hairdressers, and a few doctors, but men kept most professions to themselves. Growing up. For some lucky Roman children, growing up consisted simply of play and school. Some wealthy parents hired tutors to teach their children at home, but most sent their children to school from the age of 7 to 11 to learn the basics of mathematics and grammar. School ran from dawn until noon, and there was much learning by heart. Girls rarely got more than a basic education, after which they had to learn household skills at home. Most children from poorer families received no schooling at all, but were sent out to work from an early age. Family outing. Roman children dressed like their parents and often went with them to official ceremonies. This detail from an Augustan monument shows members of the emperor's family in a sacrificial procession. Young boy. This marble bust is of a boy at about the age of 5. The strange hair curl shows that he worships the god Isis, page 50. Hair curl. Dozing slave. Many Roman children were slaves. The oil flask left depicts a slave boy dozing on a box while he waits for his master to return. Many slaves worked very long hours, so he may be taking a nap while he can. A boy's life. This marble relief shows the stages in a boy's life, from being nursed by his mother to reciting to his father. The middle scene shows him riding a donkey chariot. Ragdoll. This much-loved and rather moth-eaten ragdoll from Roman times was well preserved in the dry soil of Egypt. Wear and tear on doll. Toxic toy. This toy camel from Egypt would not be allowed into the shops today. It is made of poisonous lead. Marbles. Marbles were already popular toys in Roman times and were made of a variety of materials. Glass marbles. Pottery marbles. Elaborately plaited hair. Young girl. This fine marble portrait shows a girl of about 10. Her hair was originally colored red and is styled like that of adult women of the time, about 200 CE. Roman children were brought up to look and behave just like their parents. Chariot. This model chariot suggests that the thrills of the racetrack were as exciting to Roman children as racing cars are today. Family life. The idea of the family was very important to the Romans. The father, or paterfamilias, held complete power over his entire family. He had, in theory, power of life and death over his children. Wives controlled the running of the house and its finances and supervised the children until they went to school, page 20. Larger households also had a number of slaves. Many led hard lives, but others were sometimes treated as members of the family. Marriage ceremony. The couple exchange vows and clasp hands to symbolize their union. The groom is holding the marriage contract. The Roman wedding. In Roman times, marriages often took place for financial or political reasons. Brides wore a special dress and a bright orange veil. The marriage ceremony was held at the bride's house or at a nearby shrine. A sacrifice was offered to win the approval of the gods. Engagement rings. The groom often gave his future bride a ring engraved with clasped hands. Slaves and pets. Wealthy Roman homes would have seemed crowded to modern eyes with slaves scurrying around cleaning and carrying. The household would also include working animals, such as guard dogs and cats, to chase rats. Pets were kept mainly for the children. Freed slave. Ex-slave Hedone set up his plaque to the goddess Feronia, who was popular with freed slaves. Sad slave. This model shows a kitchen slave weeping. He is either unhappy with his hard life or grinding a strong onion. Missing face. This portrait shows Emperor Severus with his wife and sons, Caracalla and Geta. After Severus died, Caracalla murdered Geta. His image was later removed from the portrait. Guard dog. Many Romans kept fierce guard dogs chained by the door to deter thieves. Dog tag. The bronze dog tag says, "Hold me if I run away and return me to my master, Viventius, on the estate of Callistus." Household gods. Most Romans were religious and respected their many gods, page 50, especially the gods and spirits who protected the household. Every home had its own shrine at which the family would worship daily. It was also important to remember the family ancestors. Most people would regularly go to the family graves to pay homage to the dead, page 56. Snake spirit. The household also had its own protective spirit, which was depicted as a bearded snake. See the shrine below. Crest on snake's head. Lar. The lar was the spirit of the family's ancestors. This bronze lar is pouring wine from a drinking horn in one hand while holding a libation bowl in the other. Page 52. Dolphin-headed drinking horn. Libation bowl was used to pour liquids onto the sacrificial fire on the altar. Genius. This was the personal protective spirit of a man. A woman was guarded by a Juno. A ball of incense about to be burned on an altar. Household shrine. This lararium, or household shrine from a Pompey house left, is shaped like a little temple. Dedicated ex-slaves. Romans often had very good relations with their slaves, and when they freed them, they often became their patrons. This tomb monument shows Lucius Antistius Sarculo and his wife Antistia. The inscription records that the monument was set up by Rufus and Anthus, two of their freed slaves. Clearly, Rufus and Anthus greatly admired their former masters. The ex-slaves must have become wealthy themselves to be able to afford such a splendid monument. House and home. Wealthy Roman homes were usually of the same basic design. The front door opened into an atrium or hall, which had an opening to the sky and a pool in the floor to catch rainwater. A colonnaded garden at the back added to the airy feeling of the house. Although the walls were brightly painted and the floors richly decorated with mosaics, there was surprisingly little furniture. Only the wealthy lived in luxury. Most people lived in rural poverty or in tall, crowded city apartments above rows of shops. The blocks of flats had no running water, and fire was a constant risk. Wildlife. As in Italy today, houses and gardens had their own brand of wildlife, scorpions in dark corners and lizards basking on sunny walls. Cat among the pigeons. This mosaic shows a cat which has just caught a pigeon. The picture is made up of thousands of tiny pieces of colored stone, each about 5 millimeters or 0.2 inches square. Lizards like this bronze model still live in the ruins of Pompeii. Lock and key. The Romans used locks to keep out burglars. The complicated shape of the end of the key below fitted through a keyhole into the pattern of holes in the hidden bolt left. Lock with special shape on end. Pattern of holes in bolt matches key shape. A strong box. This strong box has 2 sliding bolts in the lid, shown turned over. These were operated by turning the cogs from the outside. Boxes such as this would have been used to store money and valuables. Cogs connected to handles on the outside. Couch end. This carved ivory plaque from the side of a couch shows Cupid, the god of love, hovering above Bacchus, the god of wine, clutching a bunch of grapes. Elephant leg. This brightly colored bronze elephant's head was, in fact, a leg from a piece of furniture, probably a couch. It may have been modeled on one of the many elephants brought over from Africa to fight in the arena, page 32. The foot looks like a lion's paw. The ears make brackets for attaching the leg. Lighting up time. Romans lit their houses with oil lamps of pottery or bronze. The lamps burned olive oil, which was quite expensive and not very bright. It was often a better idea to go to bed as soon as it got dark. Oil was poured into this hole, which was originally covered with a hinged lid. An atrium. Wealthy Romans received guests in the atrium. This drawing of a Pompey house shows the central pool and the skylight. Mule-headed. This bronze couch end is decorated with a satyr, or woodland god, and a mule's head. The position of the couch end can be seen in the reconstruction above. Copper and silver inlay. Part of a wall painting from Stabii, near Pompeii.